in advance to the agenda going out. Like I can't even imagine the tediousness of what you're probably already blocking and bridging for the rest of us that we don't see. So I appreciate all of that. And that's why I feel a little bit more passionate to, we all should hold each other accountable for being prepared, because if you're taking that initiative to get the agenda out and get the information out there for us so that we could make better informed decisions, we all should at least have a better understanding of certain things.
Trustee Tan also had a hand.
Oh, okay, we'll go next to you. I saw her first. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to echo in terms of what Erica said about some questions that you answer may still need to be brought up. I will make that same judgment. It's not that I'm not knowing what the answer is,
Right.
it's that I think the public needs to understand
100%.
something.
That's
But I
part of our
will-
job.
But I will say that if you're going to do that, it's great if you give me a heads up
Oh,
that you're going to do that. So I had a trustee at one point who would ask a bunch of questions, and it took me a while to get the flow of every single one of those questions got asked in the open session. And, you know, ultimately we worked it out because a lot of it was, there were tiny questions and big questions, and even the tiny questions were getting asked in open session. So we
Yeah.
figured out, can you give me an idea of when you're gonna do that? So I'm not surprised.
Right, well, it has to do with the fundamental purpose of asking the questions.
Yeah,
It can be to shorten the meeting on smaller stuff.
Yeah.
And it can be to give you the heads up that it'll be in the meeting and you're ready to answer.
right. That makes sense.
Yeah, is it better to ask questions like based on the department, or is it better we feel like ask the question straight to you?
All the questions should go straight to the superintendent.
Should go to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only ask questions.
I got a new computer.
We have the same
Oh,
one.
Mac, you were asking about
Uh,
that. Okay, that's great.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we'll have 72 hours to ask a question. So I hope that's enough
Great.
to go through these agenda packets. 72 hours. I know it could be a lot, but maybe if you got 80% of your questions in by Monday, you had one left and a small one, I guess it's less of a burden then, at least, because the big ones got answered and processed. All right, let's move on. Board understands policymaking role. We're good on this one. Any discussion? We do have, lots
What's
of,
that question again?
we are understanding our policy role.
I think that we're still, I think we're still developing, not developing, but I like this direction that we're going and finally get us up to speed. Yeah.
Board sets expectations that the CEO will present a comprehensive student equity plan for student success with a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, anti-racism for board consideration and adoption. So one person strongly disagreed and everybody else agreed. And so this is more of like, we're setting the expectation that we want this. Anybody wanna chime
That was
in?
not me.
Someone strongly disagreed here.
Well, the only thing I want to say is we
It
have a
wasn't-
student
Right,
equity
we have
plan,
that-
so.
we have set that
this is-
expectation and we did get that.
It
So
wasn't me.
we'll see. Oh, all right. Well, we'll move on.
Okay,
I think overall, the majority, strong majority agrees, so.
Yeah.
And we did do that.
Yeah.
Board monitors and updates, strategic plan. And so we have a range of answers here, and I think actually everybody agrees, but we maybe have different approaches to that agreement, so. Does anybody want to discuss here? I kind of feel where this is gonna go, but. Anybody on either end, they agree or disagree?
I think I was either neither or disagree. I can't remember.
I guess we want to just hear more about what's going on, or have some sort of way to know.
I know that,
Because I don't know.
I know that we mentioned a dashboard that's being created, right?
Mhm.
As it relates to how we are making progress on either our strategic plan or our president goals. It was one of them, right?
Well, the president goals is something that I will bring to you on a quarterly basis, so.
session.
In a closed session, so like at the October 10th meeting, I'll do just a quick kind of update on those goals relative based on what you had asked for. I think the dashboard, I think you all did talk about a dashboard. I think once the educational vision plan is approved, because really the strategic plan should come after the EDP. Came before, but now we have to crosswalk it so that we can create a dashboard where we talk about how we are achieving the goals within the strategic plan.
Yeah, I just, I would like for us to create some kind of update highlighting how we're moving along. Because then our institution no one can say, well, where are we at? What progress are we making? There's
Mhm.
actually a place they can go to, or I can direct people to and say, well, our strategic plan was adopted and decided on by the board.
Mhm.
And if you go here on our website, this is where we are with how we're progressing along as it relates to those various items.
Trustee Stoddard.
So this is a tangent to that, but I'm not sure that this is the place to bring it up, or maybe later, but one of the things that I've been thinking about is we have all these different special programs that we've started, and some of them have started since COVID. And I think that it would be very useful for us to be able to track the progress that those programs are making, so that we know if in fact they're making a difference.
So
I don't know if there's a way to do that.
that is, so when we talk about the board calendar later, what you'll see is we've laid out what the resolutions are going to be every month, like we planned out.
Yes, I saw.
And our goal is to get to a point where we're refining the data collection piece of this, is that when you have a resolution, included in that agenda item will be like fast facts about that particular student population or program. So I think what we want to do is make sure we're hitting all the high notes of that to answer your question.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, is there like a way to objectify that, you know, because I mean. In a way, it sounds like it would all be great, but maybe it's not, maybe we're throwing money. Into something that is not giving us the kind of results we're hoping for, in which case we need to recalibrate.
Right, and I think that we actually had a conversation yesterday at our College Planning Council retreat about our program effectiveness committee and doing better program review. This is going to be a building year, basically, because up until this point, the program review process has leaned heavily towards instruction. The questions have been about instruction, and so Keller and I gave some examples of, you know, I left Oxnard College 2 years before she came. So the system I put in place in Oxnard was still there. And in that case, there were 3 different areas of program review. One was academic, one was student services, one was business services. And they had, you know, evaluation tools that related to whatever area of the college. And so I think we're going to have the data you're talking about. We just haven't had a good way of collecting the data and assessing it, even to create a dashboard that you could actually draw a line to. So I think that's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, we brought this up
Oh, wait,
before and
please,
talked about
Trustee.
it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just thinking that I think, as I understood your question, Ellen is also talking about the kinds of standalone or integrated programs that we have, like, let's see, do we have one listed here? Learning Resource Center.
That again, that would come out of.
They're not
the-
resolutions, though, I guess was the distinction I was making.
Right.
Mesa, you know, the
Right.
Moja races. all
Races.
those.
But I think that this is how, like Keller did the presentation on student success or institutional effectiveness in July. So all of those things need to kind of come together so that we do that. So yes, and I think that's where we're going to further refine the calendar to make sure that there is a regular opportunity to provide that kind of feedback. But I think in your case, you're also talking about, we started an Umoja program, we have Raices, we have basic need centers that didn't exist prior to the pandemic. And so. I think-
Veteran supports.
the Veterans
Yeah.
Center,
Yeah.
right, so like, yes, so
Okay.
we need to do that.
It is something that's coming.
Yes, it is
Board's
something that's coming and we're aware of
interested
it.
in, yeah.
Mhm.
And so with the strategic plan, I know these are like kind of things that build into it. Do you guys want to have on this annual calendar? Like a check-in on the strategic plan once a year?
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys think would be helpful?
Yeah.
We've never done that before because we've never had a strategic plan as far as I
No,
know.
we did,
Yes.
We
but
did,
we.
not
Yeah, but it wasn't
Through,
operationalized.
Was a living document.
Right.
Right.
So let's add that to our 24, 25 list somewhere of
Yeah.
wherever it flows.
Is there anything to do with facilities on this list?
On the, well, we'll get to this list.
Yeah, we'll get.
Yeah.
That's the next item, but yes,
Okay.
we'll get to that. All right, let's move on. Student success with equity and belonging is essential and visible priority in all agendas and meetings. It looks like there's a range of answers. Seems to be a sentiment we wanna make it more visible, and I think the discussion we just had is actually towards that, because by us
Yeah.
assessing student programs, that's us prioritizing success.
I disagree. Well, I don't believe that we say enough about student equity for all of our students, especially those historically marginalized. And to be honest, I don't hear it enough from most of the board members, and I don't see it enough in our board agenda items. And I keep asking for certain forms of disaggregated data, but I'm getting things like, we're getting things together, and I understand that, but I highly disagree.
Anything else on this one? Next.
Well, I partially agree with what trustee Gilmore is saying. But I wanted to just add to that what I do appreciate about the progress that we have made is that, and one thing we may want to follow up on a little bit is by, encouraging and welcoming student groups to come before the board and present. And also the resolutions that we make that clearly speak to students and affinity groups and that kind of thing. So I see that movement happening in ways that are really important, particularly these days with the backlash to DEI and, all that. So, so obviously there's always room for improvement. But I do share, trustee Gilmore's concern that, if we get a little comfortable and pat ourselves on the back, maybe we won't work as hard. But, yeah, so I think, I think we're moving in that right direction, and I like the direction we're going in, but, there's always room for improvement.
I actually just remembered I had a student who inputted that she was like a Black parent student. And she was saying she didn't get the equity that she is entitled to. And she's saying that for all other Black students.
Does she know who to speak to about her concerns?
She doesn't.
Oh, that's probably where we need to go in terms of.
And that's a reflection on us. If the student doesn't even have an idea of where to go, that means imaging, our poster boards, our website. I don't know how much. Now, I will say, we have been doing some really good website updates, so kudos to whatever departments, especially the IMSBCC, I'm really digging that. But that's a reflection on us if she doesn't know where to go, because I'm more than certain it's more than just that student who doesn't know where to go.
So if one says it, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. And so that says, so we may be saying it, and if I feel as though we don't say it enough, is the rest of our campus saying it?
Mhm.
That's the issue. And that's what we need to see. We need to see the ROI on us putting in these resolutions and these various resources so that everyone feels like they have a belonging here. Where's the report saying is actually happening?
Trustee Stark.
I think belonging though, I think the resolutions are fine, but I don't know that most of the students pay attention to the resolutions that we're passing. They don't, watch the board meetings. They probably don't read the reviews of the board. So if people are not feeling, you know, welcome and honored, there's something else going on. The resolutions are not gonna take care of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, one quick thing is that the resolutions, we've changed it to be at the beginning of the meeting now, so people can actually.
I know,
read
but
them.
I
They
mean,
were
how
at
many
the-
listening to our-
No, I know, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we need to stick to the board here, not to the rest of the college.
Okay.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
what's on the agenda is
All right,
the
yeah.
board meetings and agendas.
good point.
Trustee, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, but I do think that the board resolutions are important because they make a statement. Again, like I said, with this whole backlash against anything like that. Whether their students are checking into it now, but if anybody wants to look at it, you can point them to, you know, this is where we stand.
Yeah.
So they do make a difference. And I think we should continue that.
Right. I say the same exact thing. It's to show the campus, this is what we believe in. And
Okay.
these are they align with the directions that we inform our CEO on what we believe in collectively. And then she takes it to her cabinet and does her CEO thing, because I'm not trying to do your job. But the point here is it being done? And I can't say it is, and I can't say it's not. But when you hear occasional stories where a student doesn't understand where her resources are, that's a problem.
And, okay, and you know, I would encourage that student, like a lot of our vice presidents or superintendent have office hours. That could be a place to start for her to directly bring her concerns.
I do remember her name, and also she ended up with saying how she tried to look for like the data that shows that stuff, and she wasn't given any data. I think.
Well, I think if you know her name, it would be good. You can give it to me and it would be good for us to reach out because, you know, this is one of the difficulties of what we call anecdata because it's an anecdote.
Yeah.
So we need to have more information, like what specifically, where has she looked? Because has she looked on our website? Okay, that tells us something. Has she gone to the student services building and didn't see something? Okay, that tells us something else. So it would be really helpful for us to figure that out.
Did she, I'm just curious, did she reach out to you because she knows you're a student trustee?
She did.
Okay.
And that's part of our job.
Yeah,
Is to be those
exactly.
liaisons. I mean, people aren't gonna wanna talk to other people at first, maybe besides
Mhm.
their representative, so. The system is actually working.
Yeah.
Because you've heard it and I
Because
can
you
bring
heard-
it out,
yeah.
so.
And thank you for being approachable, because clearly you gave off an energy where she felt comfortable enough to come and share this with you.
I was actually quite fortunate because like she gave me so many inputs.
All right, next,
Didn't I tell you that today? That's why I was late. We were meeting before.
next up is a cultural inquiry, evidence and accountability is in place and serves the foundation of board action. Looks like almost everybody agrees on this one, so we'll move on from this. We don't want to stop on everyone, you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of overlap. The board monitors college effectiveness, so there's general agreement, and we've already talked about ways we will monitor effectiveness further in the future.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't said already?
Are we on
That needs to be
8?
said?
Yeah,
8,
eight.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was very wordy,
That's
but I am a professor.
It's good to have the.
We don't hold it
you can
against
read it
you.
and-
That's okay.
I'm very close.
But yeah, we all agree we want more regular data and information on progress results.
Mhm.
That's clear.
And I think the goal here in my mind is to figure out how to give that to you in a streamlined way. So that we don't have 7-hour board meetings,
For sure.
because there's always.
High five on that.
No, I agree.
You know, there's always that tension between y'all want information and y'all want to have a discussion, but when you do that, then what happens is the board meeting's longer and we have to find a good mix
Yeah.
between those two.
And I did have some points on that at the next agenda item. And so, because I think some of these things are more of our priority of what to spend time on compared to other things we've spent our time on.
Yeah,
So I would love for us to have more time
Yep.
for those things. Next, we hold our CEO accountable towards board goals. We do, and we have a process. It's just already outlined today of how we do that in closed session. Board members are made aware of major changes that relate to student success and DEIAA. Mostly agreement and some in the middle. So it looks like we might need some more education
Mhm.
on this issue for some people.
I think we talked about this before about informing us of stuff
Mhm.
and some of the, trying to block and bridge some stuff.
Well, and I think the brief presentations at last month's meeting, you know, Raices folks came, Moja. So making sure that we continue that.
Right.
So
That
you
keeps us
actually
informed.
see the programs and know what's happening.
I agree. Just,
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I changed purses. Anybody got a pen I can borrow?
I would like them to.
Yeah,
Thank
brings
you.
a whole supply.
Thank you so much.
Next up is the disaggregated data reports. And I think we already heard from you, trustee Gilmore, that you'd like to see more of that. Thank you. But it seems like a lot of others are pretty okay with the data we've been provided, but you've said what you want to see different. Board creates a mutually supportive relationship with the CEO, balance with accountability and transparency. We all seem to feel that that's working well right now. Board considers measures necessary for sustainability and of large scale reform as needed. I think, you know, a lot of people strongly agree with this, and that's been our focus in the last year at least, if not longer, to be looking at these big issues, and that's what we're gonna be doing a lot of this fall. So I don't think is there any comment?
What, number 13?
Yes.
13, yeah. Okay. Board promotes a culture of academic excellence within an equitable institution. And no disagreements, some people in the middle, so if anybody feels that something needs to be different, to feel like we're promoting academic excellence.
I think I would just like to have a conversation with our CEO one-on-one.
Okay. Sounds good. Next up is the board sets forth expectations for equitable institutional effectiveness, student success with regular reporting discussions. This has been, you know, common topic today. Anything else?
So I would say that some of these are within the equity plan that you all approve. Some of them are within, you know, institution set standards. And so I think they're there. It just may not be that they are aligned. And in some cases, what happens is the data sets that we're required to use for some plans, and those requirements come from the state, are different data sets than for other plans. So you wind up with two plans which purport to look at institutional effectiveness, and it looks like there are different outcomes. So I think one of the things that we could do around this is just make sure that you all are getting that you're getting a consistent picture, even if it's coming from two different data sets.
Move to the next item, which is board is attentive and responsive to changing and emerging educational needs for an equitable institution. Again, it looks like mostly agreement, some in the middle. We have some things coming up. Actually, it's in the comment. We are gonna want to do some discussions with other groups together to, you know, learn more. So. Board's an independent, nonpartisan policymaking body. We're good here. Let's move on. Once the board makes a decision as a whole, it acts as a whole. You know, we have some disagreement. I think, you know, we don't need to go back on this point. We have focused on this issue in the past.
But you got two disagree.
Yeah, but we've like fleshed out this issue as a board. Is there anything you want to add that we haven't?
I know we have some extraneous variables that just continuously goes against what the board has already agreed on doing things, how we move forward. But we still have some board members that continues to go against the grain, even though collectively we may have voted on something. It's like they have to just go out of their way to speak to the latter. And if we already voted on something, that's how we should be speaking. Well, if you agree with it or not, okay, fine, you don't agree with it, but to continuously keep bringing that up. But as a board, and we voted on to go in direction A, but you keep being overspoken that you are going in direction B, that's not speaking as a whole.
Trustee Stoner.
Well, I'm just curious about the comment, this requirement is outdated and it's no longer an accreditation factor. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true.
it
is.
The Supreme Court case said, no, the board does not need to act as a whole.
Yeah, so we'll
And you
remove
can speak
this.
up if
Yeah,
you disagree.
Are you talking about the Texas case?
yeah.
So it used to be an accreditation requirement, but Supreme Court said otherwise.
Yeah.
That's a good catch.
It's a free speech issue.
So then,
But that doesn't mean that you endlessly bring something up. It depends what you're discussing.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Mhm.
relevant or not.
You can't be disruptive.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
the same court case said that the board has the right to censure somebody who is disruptive if they are,
right.
you know, going against the grain, but being disruptive about it.
So-
So,
like if the board votes to do something and then the next day. A trustee goes to one of the campuses in the district and says, I know the board voted to do this, but I'm gonna make sure you as a college, it doesn't apply to you.
Oh,
That can't happen,
no,
accreditation or not, or
Yeah.
whatever, free
right.
speech or not,
Right.
a board member can't do
Yeah.
that.
you want to go to the news and say a
Well-
quote, you're free to do that.
Got a district on.
Well, it isn't that so much. It's just that I feel like, you know, sometimes people have like a moral or a real
Mhm.
strong feeling about something and they shouldn't have to give that up. I mean, they could be quiet about it or something, but they shouldn't
Yeah.
have to give it up and pretend to go
Right. Oh,
along
no,
with
no.
something that they don't.
That was never the case, that you have to
Right.
pretend to
Right,
agree to something.
well, you can say, I don't happen to agree with the policy and leave it at that.
Uh-huh.
It's when people take the next step
Okay,
and actively advocate or take an action that goes against something the board did. That's when it becomes a problem, because then it's disruptive to the governance of the institution.
Well,
I understand.
I mean, the Supreme Court case, the person involved was very vocally and loudly opposing what the board had decided.
Mhm.
They said that's okay.
Right,
I mean, they basically said, you guys are all adults, you can speak up. And you have the right to do that. So I don't think it's that. I mean, I read your example of going to some campus and saying, you know, it won't apply to you, to be more an issue of, well, one board member doesn't have that authority.
Right.
It's not something within our scope. But that doesn't mean they couldn't say, I still disagree with the idea.
yeah,
because-
they can say that, yeah, absolutely.
To, would, someone, actively campaigning against the bond measure?
That's what the guy was doing.
That's totally allowed,
Mhm.
Totally allowed
totally allowed.
by that court decision.
I mean, I think it would have been without the court decision, but yeah.
So is our board policy then need further refinement?
I think so. That's a to-do item for our policy committee to update that.
Yeah.
Or, and then to get rid of this question or change
Yeah.
change it to it.
Yeah.
When do,
I don't think we should get rid of it. I think we can
Well,
just maybe edit it.
It doesn't really matter anymore, but
Yeah.
the different version, yeah,
when was this court decision?
a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
Leave it too by then.
Yeah, it was last July.
Yeah,
It was July.
it was recent, yeah.
This federal court?
Mhm.
I know I've been told about it before, but I can't forget.
Well, it's funny because at the February 2023 ACCT or 2022,
Mhm.
the trustee that was involved was in the legal update session.
Well,
It's very interesting talking to him.
Probably quite proud of him or her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
all right, next up is the board advocates, defends, and protects their, oh, yeah, do you want to just bring up your 2 points before you go? I have them here.
Oh,
I can do it too, but
Are you leaving?
good for
I
you.
have to leave early. I screwed up my schedule badly. Let's see. Is it possible to get a redo on the adopted budget to catch the little stuff that needs?
You are going to have an update, but right now is, yes, you are going to have an update.
Do you know what the time frame on that is?
I don't,
Okay.
but there will be a presentation at the October board meeting that I mentioned in my
Mhm.
email. And, but I will talk to Brian about sort of the timing of everything else, but I think that there will be
Okay.
a clarification. Mhm.
Okay, because there's some things in here, how would you best like that communicated?
If you could let me know the things that you're referencing, that you're thinking about. I know that they are hoping that today or tomorrow will close 23-24. And we'll be reporting out some of the major changes, so yes, because we obviously would need to update because the assumptions would be different, not just based on last year, but also possibly how we're looking at revenue and expenses for this current year based on using proper government accounting procedures.
Some of my things had to do with, okay, the description of what the line means,
Mhm.
or the header on what the line means is not correct. It's for
Right,
some
and-
reason.
And well, it
And
may be
closing-
incorrect because the budget accountability accounting manual may not have been followed properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking it became difficult to understand what was being said if it had the wrong header, and
Right.
closing 23-24 could allow, for example, a better header. You know.
Right, but, and
Yeah.
that's why we have three controllers currently working on it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I was thinking would be helpful for our discussion,
For the
Or-
budget or facilities discussion? I think it was for
facilities,
facilities,
yeah,
for both.
for facilities discussion, we had mentioned that there was 37% credit on campus versus 39 online
Mhm.
in the educational master, or
Educational vision plan?
I thought it would be helpful to know which of those are local versus which are out of district. In terms of who's on campus, if that's possible to discern.
So the in-person classes, which of the students that are taking in-person classes are in district versus out of district?
Right.
Okay,
In person or the hybrid classes, I mean, the classes, you wanna know.
The hybrid is smaller group. I was
Right,
just
yeah.
hoping
You
for the
wanna know
bigger
about the
groups.
online people who are far away and who are local.
Well, I want it in person too, because it has to, it has implications for thinking about housing, for
Oh,
example,
okay,
Hmm,
stuff like that.
okay.
yeah, that's
Um,
true, okay.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
to
I'm
know.
sorry.
No, that was just helpful for you to
I
say.
screwed up.
It's okay. Next is, okay, we protect and defend the institution from undue influence. We do follow this. Establish equitable policies. We follow this.
Doing that?
Policy accountability for all these education programs, legal, fiduciary, yes. Up-to-date policies and administrative procedures. I think, we had
Work in
right,
progress.
work in
Yeah.
progress. I know we're trying to get there. We have a backlog, so
Mhm. But we're
we're on it.
streamlining it and
Mhm.
trying to move ahead.
Self-evaluation process, well, it's a little late this year, but we did it. It's all good.
Point is, you did it.
We did it.
Mhm.
Code of ethics, thanks for the shout out. And yes, we did that. Informed about the accreditation process, not
Yeah.
happening right now, but we have been informed in the past.
I would say in the next couple of years, as we move towards the preparing for the next accreditation visit in 2028, the board will have more information. The new standards have
Mhm.
just gone into effect in 2024. And since the college was last visited, there's also a new methodology to the visit. So by the time we get to 2026, Those standards will have been in place for 2 years, and I'll be chairing a team to Orange Coast College in February of 26, and to the Orange Coast, and to the Coast Community College District. So it'll be great because I'll have perspective to provide to the board of what we can expect for our visit in 28. And as we start the ICER creation.
What college will you be?
I'll be going to so I'm the visiting chair to Orange Coast College,
That's
but
gonna be very interesting.
it's gonna be fascinating because I'm also what they call the coordinating chair for the Coast District, and
It's gonna
there's some
be-
pretty interesting people who work in that
That is
district.
gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, because I, was told I have no future here.
Oh, well, we'll benefit.
Yes, we will.
Next up is the board delegates full authority to the CEO. We're pretty good on that right now.
Yeah.
Participatory governance structures, processes, practices, they work together for the good of the institution.
And I just want to say that I think our PRT efforts this year to revise our resource planning handbook and our structure is really going to go a long way towards this. We had a very productive College Planning Council meeting yesterday where we did a lot of this kind of work. So I think it's all full steam ahead on this. So I think this will be great.
That's good too. Trustee Everett.
Can we kind of remind ourselves when we use acronyms to say what they are so our student trustee can follow,
Mm.
like PRT and
Oh, I'm
stuff like
sorry,
that?
Partnership Resource
Thank you.
Team. It's a group that came to do some advising for us to help us look at our participatory governance structure. And we're going to be having an all-day kind of retreat here on campus that you're going to be welcome to come to. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that when we meet next week. Okay? Mhm.
Right, and I think this comment that we need to have this strong to make our progress on big issues.
Yeah.
Well taken.
What number?
27.
27.
Mhm.
Yeah.
28, the board assures that there is an effective and equitable institutional planning process and is appropriately involved in that process. We had one person disagree, but I think
Mhm.
majority agree. And we have seen all those different elements, the facility, we're seeing it now, education, strategic plan. Is there anybody who wants to speak up against the majority? Hate to say that way, but. Okay, all board members have adequate knowledge of the budget. Definitely, could be better results here.
Yeah.
I do know that we're working on this for this fall, like that is the whole point of one agenda item on this meeting and going into the November
Mhm.
meeting. So I would say, this is my personal, thing is ask as much as you can about this one, especially between November, because we're gonna be giving, serious direction and goal setting for the budget. And I don't want anybody to feel this way by then,
Well,
so
I'm the disagree there, and that's,
there's multiple, there's not just you, so.
Yeah.
Trustee Everett.
Well, I just want to say, one of the things that's really going to be critical as new people onboarded too, but
Mhm.
having people rotate through that budget committee, because
Yeah.
I did not want to serve on that committee at all, but I was kind of voluntold and it was my turn. And I'm so glad I did, because even though, I learned so much, and I just think it's really critical that everybody has to, whatever. But it should be really,
that's a good point.
necessary, because it makes such a difference.
As someone who has been here 6.5 years and I'm still learning, maybe it's too late now. The intricacies of the budget, I think I think you're already doing this, but for the 3 new
Mhm.
trustees who are coming on board,
Mhm.
I think a deep dive
Yeah.
for them into where the revenue comes from, how it's
Mhm.
calculated,
Mhm.
uh, what all these different funds are and how that works.
And if I could come to that,
And,
Yes.
training.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and everybody else should go to that if they feel the need to gain
Yeah,
further
I-
understanding.
I went over it a little bit when we did the first session with the candidates.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday, we'll have the second session with the candidates where each of my VPs and executive directors will be presenting their areas of the college, but definitely one entire session of the orientation of successful candidates will be about the
Yeah.
budget. And by the time we're doing that, I believe our accounting will be on the way to where it needs to be, so that what we need to be doing and how we're, how we're reporting it out
Mhm.
match.
The other thing, while I'm on, just to finish up on this. Maybe it's not technically a budget issue or a finance issue, but well, it really is. I think everybody needs to have greater understanding of. Cause I know we're gonna be looking at these things, when we talk about our deficit, it's TLUs, how they
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
Stipends, and not just how they work, but what's the history? and
Yeah.
What's the tradition? Been the practice? Stipends, overloads, class sizes, all of those things I think are gonna be the big things we look at to
Mhm.
figure out how to attack the deficit. And I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding. Trustee Gallimore and I had a vigorous discussion about TLUs and that.
TLUs are what now?
Teaching load unit.
Teaching
So they're-
load unit.
Yeah.
And we, I don't know that we came to a consensus about certain numbers, but anyway, I think it would be good for everybody to have a common understanding.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're bringing these things up, because as that outgoing person, you now have like your view of what was important during my time here.
And I just wish I would have. I mean, I came on at a time where there was a lot of tumult
Mhm.
and I just didn't get that, or I didn't ask the right questions, I guess. And there's always, for a new trustee, there's a period of time you go through where you don't wanna, after a certain amount of time, you don't wanna act ignorant.
Right, like I
Yeah.
didn't get it the first
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hold back on asking those questions, and I'm sure that our CEO would be glad to
Mhm.
sit down individually with people
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and work through some of these things too. But everybody should do, I fault myself for not being more proactive in really understanding some things that I should have.
I was gonna share that. I enjoy being on the committee, and I'd be happy to share with you, when Dr. Murillo created our transition schedule, it was extremely helpful.
Mhm.
I'm sure you have an amazing plan on how you're going to help assist them with their onboarding, but I'll be happy to share how she broke up
Mhm.
certain departments. And I think I think it was once a month, it was a different
Mhm.
department.
Mhm.
And the presentations were really good. They kind of got to the meat and potatoes of things without overwhelming you. And so I could forward how she broke those things up. But creating an atmosphere where we value the expectation of you should be aware at baseline of certain things as relates to our ultimate responsibility, which is our fiduciary responsibility to these new people coming on. I think it's key that we keep up that atmosphere of expectation
Mhm.
that, yeah.
Trustee,
I think he was first, but then after him.
go ahead.
I'd just like to add, I know the data is pretty tedious and long and it's not really student friendly, so I would I wouldn't make a request to change how you guys present the data, but I would just like to know to what extent should I know of what budget is what and.
You should schedule a meeting with our superintendent and
Mhm.
go over it.
Like maybe create a student version.
Mhm.
Because I know only I'm gonna be here for 1 year, and I know some of this budget is gonna be a.
And it
long
also,
term.
Yeah. Mhm.
well, that's gonna happen anyways. A lot of stuff just gonna be, it's like, don't worry about all of it. You can't grasp all of it, but.
Focus on what you-
I just wanna reiterate that I didn't get onboarded at all. It was during COVID. This is like, here's the BP,
Yeah.
and read it. And, so I really envy what you guys had, cause I got.
No, you gotta, I totally agree.
Did I miss something? You already did the candidate forum?
No, it wasn't a forum.
It's
I
an info
did an info session. The first one, I presented to all of the candidates, Jordan and I did, and I spent about an hour going over, this is how the community college system works.
This is
It
not for us.
was, it's not
This
for
is the
you.
new
Oh,
candidates.
It's for
okay.
the candidates.
Okay,
Who
'cause
are
I'm like, I
applying
don't
for-
understand.
Let's
Yeah.
get back on the agenda, you
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
Get back on
okay.
the agenda.
I just wanted to reiterate that part, so, you know.
But I think if it's, I told trustee Tan he should meet with our superintendent on the budget. Everybody else should schedule a meeting. Like, if you really have a question, I'm gonna do it too. Like, everybody should do it. Please don't come to the November meeting with questions.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm serious, like, the November meeting is for serious discussion of the next steps, not to understand things. So schedule a meeting. I think you're welcome to have
absolutely.
infinite hours for us.
The November board, regular.
The
board.
November regular board meeting.
Is it after the 5th?
It is, it's the regular board meeting, yes.
Well, you're also scheduling a special meeting.
That's for the offloading
Okay,
items.
okay,
But the
great.
November, what's
We'll
specifically
talk about it
happening?
in the
We're gonna
next.
talk about
Yeah.
that later.
Well, that'll be an agenda item.
Okay.
But definitely everybody try to level up your budget knowledge by one, at least by November.
Okay, got it.
Board utilizes a comprehensive process to analyze anticipated revenues and planned expenditures before implementing evidence-based fiscal decisions that align with board priorities. So definitely all over. that.
We're all over the map.
Oh, yeah, every answer got one. So I think maybe as part of this one, you guys can help explain, like, was part of it not knowing? Like, it's related to the previous question where you're not maybe sure of how the revenues and expenditures numbers are formulated, or is it more that you don't think we're doing a good job with that? I guess it would be good to hear, like, why you put disagree or in the middle. Like, is it not knowing, or is it you don't think we are doing it correctly or enough?
No, I did one of the disagrees, and that is my comment. It's been and continues to be contentious. That the shifting numbers do not lessen the confusion or help
I
build,
see.
that's me. So,
Okay,
so it's not that I think that we're doing it wrong. It's that I don't think the board's doing it wrong. It's just that it's very hard to understand.
Right.
Yeah,
I see.
and we're
Right,
needing to fix
We're in the
it,
work,
and there's
yeah.
a reason.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Because we've been doing it
So
wrong.
that's what I'm referring to.
I see. Trustee Everett.
Yeah, one of my comments was just that oftentimes it kind of gets back to what we had mentioned before. Oftentimes someone will return to an issue or discuss something that should have been addressed, you know, in the Q&A before we get there. And then it just ends up prolonging the meeting much longer than it needs to be. So, you know, and I know people mean well when they're trying to speak to certain aspects of the budget, but sometimes that,
Mhm.
you know, that section can go on. And, you know, so just that, I think that the fact that we need to really work to get people to kind of, some of those questions can be answered and not need to be brought to the full floor.
So I was the neither,
Okay,
but my comment is the third one that
just, yeah, you can just speak it up.
we're in the midst of trying to become more efficient.
Yes,
But what some of us are not keeping in mind, because we get so much revenue from the state, it's like a living document. It's not set in stone. And it's like, some people keep asking these questions, well, why are the numbers changing? Well, because we don't control the state's budget.
Right,
So therefore, it impacts us unfortunately, and we don't kind of keep that in mind. And the way sometimes we ask questions is like we're blaming our finance department on these changing numbers, and it's not their fault. It's just that we have to be just as flexible as the numbers that the state keeps giving us. And so once we finally understand that
Mhm.
and have a better process on creating revenue and not working off of a deficit, I just see us moving in the right direction. But I think people keep forgetting the numbers are gonna always change as long as we are getting money from the state and we don't control their budget, the numbers are gonna always change. I don't think we're ever gonna have a budget where this is how much we're getting and that number we can, you know, it's not like we're balancing our own checkbooks. And I think some people think it's easy as balancing our own checkbooks to the penny. And I just don't think that that's a budget that is realistic for us.
Yeah, and I think the key term in the question is we utilize a comprehensive process, not that we have perfect numbers.
Yeah, I think
So
we do.
Have a good
Yeah.
process.
But yeah,
Trustee
I
Everett.
just want to say, that's why we have a May revise. I mean, that's something we can look for every May. We get this like, well, here's what we think the budget's gonna be, and then, the state's gonna give us the May revise. So that's like a given. So we know it's exactly what you were saying. These numbers are not gonna be stable. And, we just have to kind of operate within a kind of window.
Anything else on this one, number 30? Next, board develops procedures that ensure expenditures and accounting processes are efficient. I think we have discussed that we are fixing our accounting house today already, so let's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can move on.
This one. Board monitors and reports on the fiscal condition and providing an accurate count of expenditures versus revenues. And that resource allocation aligns with the college's mission and strategic planning.
Mhm.
So majority, I guess, slightly agree. Others on the other end, is there anyone who wants to speak up on this one? I think we've kind of touched on this
Yeah.
already, especially with the program review and,
Mhm.
resource allocation. Board regularly engages in, reports back at the meetings about their own development, conferences, training, workshops. Looks like almost everyone agrees, someone disagrees, but,
I disagree. I put that, a number of us, we attend conferences and we attend these workshops and we sign up for certain subcommittees, but we could be doing a better job with disseminating that information to the entire board when they come back. Like, why sign up for things and you're not gonna bring that information?
right, any other discussion? We'll end up, part one, we're almost done, the end goes fast on this one. All right, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, I think we were all mostly on the same page for all these answers, so.
Mhm.
I don't know if we need to bring up anything unless somebody feels strongly about one of these points, but it does sound like. A lot of people believe our strengths are our diverse viewpoints, that we can work together well, respect each other. People are, they ask questions and they get into the issues, so that's what I read between the 7 answers. Is there anything, anyone wants to highlight as something we're doing well? Overall? Alright, good. Well, weaknesses, maybe more discussion on that. So the weaknesses were a little more diverse in what we had. And we've kind of touched on some of the issues of the weaknesses, but
Mhm.
anything anyone wants to highlight? I was gonna highlight one, but. Is there anything on the
We
weakness?
said it.
I think that we
most of
said it,
these
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, the one I was gonna highlight was meetings going longer, but I think we'll talk about that more in a second.
I mean, given the amount of stuff that we have to cover, they probably could be longer, but you kind of move us
I
along pretty
disagree.
well.
I think we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time
Me too.
on on minutia.
On the
Minutia.
consent agenda.
Yeah, we
You
spent too
spend
much
way
on
too
that.
much time on the
We do.
consent
I
agenda
really don't need
because
to.
the documents are all there. Now you have had you have had a trustee who hasn't agreed with most of the expenditures and so that has caused it. But again, that gets back to asking questions ahead of time because
Mhm.
sometimes spending time on a $1,000 expenditure when we're, $100 million organization, it doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't.
Right.
But I think that trustee wants her objections to be public.
Right,
And so I think that problem's done.
Yeah.
I think the length of the meeting is a very, very important subject.
Yes.
That I think what the long meetings do is that what's the word I'm trying to think of? I mean, it really, it takes away from you some of the energy you have
Yeah,
towards the cause. And the shorter the meetings are, the more engaged all the trustees will be at the next meeting. And more apt to prepare better for the next meeting if we don't have to sit there for 7 hours.
we need to focus on the important thing.
Yeah, I mean, it really, if 4 hours, I think is plenty long. In fact, I think a goal ought to be something less than that.
Trustee Everett?
I mean, 100%, I echo that, those sentiments, and just 2 things. At a couple of the conferences that I've gone to, I've made a point to go to the ones about board governance and that kind of thing. And the consensus has been that board meetings should be 2.5 hours maximum, because you have subcommittees where a lot of the stuff that, you know, that you're exhibiting time for, they should not be longer than, than 2.5 hours. And, so I really do think as we move towards efficiency, it's not that we have to like stick to that time frame, but it should give us a window of, how long it should be, because those regular meetings and special sessions and, study sessions, we should not be spending that much time in our regular board meetings that are occurring every month. And I agree that it taxes people who want to watch online. Who's gonna sit there for? Anyway.
Yeah.
I think maybe the average, I think that we're shooting for a goal of 3 hours, because closed session tends to always be an hour, right?
Mhm.
And so then if the board meeting is 2 hours, that's 3 hours right there. So I think if the goal is 3 hours,
Right.
I think that's moving in a good direction, because we gotta still keep in mind, we have closed session.
Mhm.
And so I can't see us doing our board meeting less than 2 hours. Like, I'm not talking about closed session, but like the actual board meeting, I can't see us getting that done under 2 hours. So I think 3 hours is a good goal.
I agree with that. I'm wondering what our CEO thinks about it. Because you need decisions from us.
Right.
On various things. And at the same time, you have information you want to have presented to us. Is it realistic to have?
A 3 hour meeting?
what
Well,
Charlotte's talking.
my first meeting at PCC was 45 minutes and the chair was very proud of himself. But I will say that this is where we have to strike the balance between making sure, looking at all the things you all have talked about in terms of wanting to understand institutional effectiveness and wanting to see reports on things. We have to strike a balance between those reports and the items that do not need public discussion. And I think getting to 3 to 4 hours, including closed session, is a realistic timeframe. I think once you get past 8 o'clock here, it's just, you're all tired and,
That's the other thing.
it's hard. And the other thing is you're tired and 8 to 11 is empty.
Yeah.
You notice that when we get to a certain point in the agenda, I send my team home, like they don't have to stay for this. So I think it is possible, and I will absolutely commit to making sure if you're getting a presentation, it's only a maximum of 10 to 15 minutes
Yeah,
at the
Mhm.
most.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I can be far more intentional and like
Yeah.
cutting you off,
Yes.
whatever.
A lot of the presentations that go 15 minutes can be 5 minutes.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, the summary,
But I
yes.
will say that, yes, they can be, and we have to make sure that the questions that get asked don't then elongate it.
Right.
Because sometimes it's not about the length of the presentation,
Yeah.
it's about the number of questions that follow it and the desire for responses. And so I think that's a case where if you see a presentation and you have questions, it might be good to say, well, I have some questions I'd like the superintendent to follow up with you on, and you send me the questions and I get your answers.
Yes.
Because I think that's the thing, I want you to have the answers, but maybe the individuals presenting may not have the
Right,
answers
and then
because
they
it
will
might
have-
be
yeah.
too far afield of what the presentation is. And that adds to the length of the presentation. If the presentation's, 10 to 15 minutes and then the questions that come are 30 minutes, that's
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one thing I've been thinking about is also changing our agenda order to then prioritize the important discussions at the beginning when we have fuel, and then
Mhm.
putting the things that are less priority at the end, because
That's a really good idea.
I don't see why the consent agenda comes first and then we spend 2 hours on, it's not actually 2 hours.
Yeah, but-
Energy on it,
Yeah.
that we then go into other issues that with, our attention having been used already. So that's something I'm working on. Essentially, what I'm thinking of is, we've already moved the resolutions up to after
Mhm.
closed session. That was one thing. communications say after, and then go straight into the action items. Because those are usually the big issues that
Yeah.
we're making a decision on, then the course, yeah.
And then if I could also add, another thing is, unless we have an attorney coming to closed session should be at the end.
Yeah, instead of doing it in the beginning.
Instead, the only time you have to be concerned is if we're bringing an attorney in, because obviously we don't want them
Yeah.
sitting around waiting for a meeting, but that is one thing that could
Yeah.
shorten the
We
meeting.
used to
I
have
think
it at the end.
I mean, yeah, but we made it switch to the beginning on purpose. I mean, we had so many things happening. I think we just
Mhm.
needed, you had attorneys every time, I guess, so we moved it to the beginning. It used to be at the end, but then it was the same thing happening where the rest of the meeting was going so long that we'd get to the end and have to do our closed session business, which is important.
Yeah.
But then we'd be too tired to deal with like
Mhm.
investigation, debriefs and.
Yeah.
All I can say is when I was a dean here, closed session was in here, and I was almost always in my office when the closed session started, because the rest of the meeting was over. And they were walking in here at 5:30, 5:45 to do close.
Wow.
Mhm.
So let's think about that.
I have a question. So, trustee Miller, so you've been on the board longest of all of us who's in this room right now.
I've been on.
Oh,
Yeah.
so how long were those meetings going prior to the pandemic?
They were short. I mean, I'd say like in 2015, the meetings were pretty short, my first year on the board.
Under 2 hours? Short?
I remember it was short. I couldn't say under 2 hours, but I remember it got longer.
I don't
as I was-
remember a time when they haven't been long.
Me
Yeah.
too, when I was on.
Yeah.
It's been very
6
rare.
hours.
It's been
Mhm.
very rare that I'd get home before 9 o'clock, for example.
Really?
I think by 2017 or 18, we were in long meeting mode. But the first year I was on the board, there wasn't, I guess, as much contention.
Okay.
How much of that was public comment? Because that's
No, it
the other
wasn't just
thing,
because
that
of
it
public
wasn't
comment.
just.
It was a lot of board.
Mhm, back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, maybe, you know, things are changed.
They are, and we're
Mhm.
still like in this
Yep.
long meeting situation. I think it's a good thing to discuss.
We-
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
On that note, would it be helpful to make the data a bit more user friendly? Especially for students, so that we could increase the effectiveness of how we read the data and so like maybe quicken the.
What
meeting
data are you talking
I
about?
don't know what data.
Information like adopt to budget, like datas that are just like very critical and needs to be understand and like having it be presented to be like easy to digest.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always the goal, because none of us are experts on the board. We're not accountants, we're not
Mhm.
educator. I mean, some of us are educated, but you know, none of us are education administrators, but. So the idea, most of the information is presented for a non-expert to understand. That's the point.
Cause I do notice like it's also with some of the other board members, it's a common occurrence where the data is pretty confusing.
Mhm.
So that's our weaknesses. Opportunities coming up. Our new members is a big one.
Yeah.
We wanna definitely bring them in well. Our bond, if it passes, would be a big piece of work next year for us.
Mhm.
Any other opportunities somebody wants to highlight from this page? But, you know, we've already talked about our orientation for new board members.
Mhm.
It's a mentorship program that's mentioned here, and that was something that happened when I was new on the board.
Mhm.
I got like a board mentor appointed to me. I don't think we've done that since, so.
Was that helpful?
I thought it had its helpfulness. It was Peter who was my mentor, so I just, you know, I went to his house a couple times to just, he would explain things to me.
Yeah,
So
I think it's we did it PCC.
Yeah, well, I'd be willing to help with that.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Also, I had a member, Kate Parker, but again, it was during COVID, so
Yeah.
most of it was just like a phone call here and there, but it was not as robust as it could have been.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, it was a different time.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
definitely it's good to have a
I
mentor.
think it would be great.
Mhm.
And maybe something for our outgoing trustees to do is to like maybe even write something
Oh,
to
Mhm.
pass on. Doesn't have to,
Exit
it doesn't have to be
interview.
just for the person who's replacing you, but for all the new trustees, they can,
Mhm.
hear from you.
I'm gonna say you're lucky you didn't onboard during COVID.
Yeah. You know, it's clear that you were starved by that.
I know, I keep hearing it. Like a decade.
Hard.
I was tired. And it was during the other administration where there was all that stuff going on.
Mhm.
Oh my, anyway, yes,
Well,
I won't mention that.
No, okay. We have some good opportunities here. We have new
Yeah.
blood coming in and see how we can
Yeah.
get them.
Although we're gonna really miss you guys.
We
I
are,
know.
It's mutual, I'm telling you.
Anyway,
Have to leave.
well, we're gonna talk about them leaving, what we're gonna do about that in another item here.
we're not gonna let them.
No, I do wanna do like a resolutions and reception. Threats for the board, looks like our finances, the state. Measure P failing.
No, yeah.
I don't even wanna.
It's not
We're
going
not gonna
to,
contemplate.
it's not going
No,
to.
that just, that can't happen.
Mm.
So these are all, the threats. I think we all kind of agree that we have
Yeah.
overlap. Political issues, yeah, we have major elections coming up. That could impact us, and the political climate, I think, is maybe more of what we're seeing in these answers is how will the political climate affect the campus? I think which is what our priority would be. Economic factors, the state, and I think I saw a lot of people mention the cost of living in Santa Barbara and how it affects our people. Huge. We have some control, or we don't have much control, but we have things we can do about that, but a lot of it is other agencies and groups. Sociocultural factors, I thought it was a good point here mentioned of, the declining population because of the cost of living of students, and how do we work on that, and how do we incorporate that into our future? Which I thought we heard about in the education vision plan, so at least the college is on it, and we're working on that. And then technology, cybersecurity, hacking, artificial intelligence. I learned a lot about the enrollment fraud issue at the trustee board meeting this last weekend. There's a lot of serious issues. Every college pretty much is being affected. We're not the only one.
Right,
Some people in the public are saying it's our fault.
right.
Every single college is dealing with this, so. And some worse situations than we've had, so. All right, well, that's our list, and then the goals,
Great.
I will say, that's agenda item 1 is finished. This
Okay. We're on part 3 now, right?
part 3.
Okay.
Our goals, I mean, I actually don't think we need to go through each of these goals, because what I heard in the comments was that we need to keep all 4 goals and just
Yes.
maintain these.
Right.
We don't need to adding new goals is maybe not our issue right now.
Well, and the president whose goals emanate from your
Yeah.
goals would greatly appreciate
Let's
that.
not change anything. We might want to tweak the activities, because those are updated from year to year. But definitely I would say these goals stay. So just to review that for everybody, financial sustainability. Adopt budgets that are sustainable going forward, yes.
Did all 7 trustees respond to this?
One person didn't.
Which
Couldn't
one?
tell. We don't know who.
Which one, which number?
No, I mean, like,
44.
for the survey as a whole, was it?
One person did not.
Okay, so only 6 trustees.
7.
Seven.
Oh, 7 with our
We
student.
have our student.
Okay, well, somebody votes put here no for 46B.
I mean,
46B.
well, the majority said yes, so we go with the majority here.
Oh, yeah.
Facilities and sustainability, we're gonna be doing a ton of this next year. Diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and anti-racism. Yeah, I mean, one person said no, everyone else said yes. And then board governance, which, this is gonna change what it means, but, we're gonna keep this board governance goal. Yeah, well, that's about it. Does anybody want to volunteer to do the updates to the board goals? Like, again, we're just editing the subtasks, and that's something, we've done some of the things in the subtasks already. Like, for example, one of them in the facilities is to evaluate a bond. Well, that's not gonna happen. We don't need to evaluate a bond anymore. We're gonna be now supporting the implementation of our plan. that's like maybe something different we do this year, so. Anybody want to volunteer to work on the board goals
Well,
for next year?
do we have it somewhere? I mean, do we have the document?
The board goals themselves,
Yeah.
yes. I
Is
mean,
that here? So.
It's not, but we can provide that to you.
it's
And
on our
so-
website, I think.
Okay, so it would just involve like looking at it and taking off the ones, like striking through the ones we've already done.
Yes,
Or changing the description of them, because, for example, about the bond, like.
Yeah, I'll do that, Jonathan.
you'll start, okay, thank you. So here's our goals. They're on our Board of Trustees page on our website.
Okay.
So we'll go
Okay,
through that,
okay.
but it does, if anybody has
Great.
anything specific, you can bring it up now to
Mhm.
not have Brown Act issues. If not, I think we have a good sense of how to
Mm-hmm.
update these. But if anybody has some, these sub points right here, I don't want to read all of them and go through each one individually. There's like 20 of them. But if you do have specific things you think the board should do.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I have any questions, I'll bring it to the board meeting and then we won't have,
Brown Act.
we won't,
Yeah.
will you put that on the
We'll do
agenda?
a draft, I guess,
Mhm.
draft board goals in October, approve the final board goals in November.
Yeah,
How about that?
That way,
Yeah.
it'll be
Okay.
on the Brown Act.
So we have to work fast, though. We have only 1 week to get our draft.
Yeah, a week from
Together.
Friday, we need the draft.
Well,
I can do that.
We can do that,
Okay,
we can do that.
great.
Trustee Everett.
Can somebody ask, student trustee if he knows what the Brown Act is and down
We
there?
can't do that right now. We don't
You
have
can't?
time.
Yeah,
But the
okay,
Brown Act.
okay,
is-
yeah.
I think-
Yeah, and it doesn't apply to him.
I did
because-
talk, I
he doesn't-
did talk to him.
Great.
When I have covered this, yeah.
Okay. We've kind of already done this, but I wanted, we've talked about the meetings for the last year.
Mhm.
Is there anything else we want to talk about in terms of how the meetings went and how we can improve? This is one of those things I want to get set in a good, system for the new
Yeah.
board. And, we have all of our experience here.
Well, we've already talked about, the agenda coming out on Friday and.
Yeah.
And for me, I know that would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think you've done a really good job, Jonathan, of, really trying to help us stay on track and telling us when we're going astray.
Thank you. I'll keep doing that.
Yeah.
So here, I have a proposal on this. I know this has been controversial in the past at some other groups, but the Goleta City Council has an end time on their agenda. For example, so they can vote to extend past the end time,
Mhm.
but they haven't understood, like, we gotta be done by this time. And what we can do as well is do time frames for agenda items. So it doesn't have to be time limits. I don't wanna say the word limits because it's no limits, but we wanna say, okay, consent agenda, 10 minutes. And then, if we need to go past that, no one is, holding us back from doing that, but kind of expected and proposed timeframes for the items.
Mhm.
And that's something we'll work on agenda review, myself and the board VP and.
Totally support it.
I wholeheartedly
I'd like to
agree.
Try it on a trial basis.
Yeah, it's all,
Exactly.
it's all elective, right? Like we
Yeah.
say, here's our predicted times for all these things.
I
Nothing
second
holds
that.
anyone to it. It's just more,
Let's try it for 2 meetings and
Yeah.
then talk about it.
sure, let's do that.
I second that emotion and motion.
Um, And so, yeah, we have questions by Monday evening. That's part of our meeting improvement list. We had talked about something just previous, shortening the meetings. So that's part of it is the timeframes, part of it's the questions, reordering the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder about, sometimes we spend a fair amount of time on the longevity recognitions,
Mhm.
and I'm just wondering the importance of that in the way we do it. Or if there's a way to shorten it up.
So, can I
Go ahead.
offer? So what we could do is we could just have the person, if their supervisor is there, come up and say, this is this person, and in your board packet is a description of what was said, because I think the ones where they've gotten up there and read like a
Yeah.
5-minute thing, I totally get that, but I think maybe what we should do is I think it's still important for public recognition, but maybe not, would you like to say a few words piece?
Yeah, I agree. Trustee Everett.
I like the longevity recognitions, because I think that it's one of the things, like, it's like graduation. It's one of the things where everybody's in a good mood about it. People get their acknowledgement and public service, you know, and the work that we do here, it isn't often recognized in any real way. So having them get up there and speak, I mean, they can get a time limit,
Yeah,
you know,
we could
but.
do a
but
1 minute.
I like that part
Mhm.
of the meetings.
Yeah.
Trustee Stubbs.
And I agree with you, Ann. I just,
But I know, yeah, we
I-
can maybe do some tightening up. maybe.
yeah, but if you have 5 minutes times 10 people, which we have 10 people sometimes, that's 50 minutes. And
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, we can tighten it.
Maybe we could ask for like, 2 minutes or something, but I want to ask you two, what do you think about that?
That's true.
I mean, would it kind of lose some of its power if the supervisor wasn't speaking to the things you do well?
I think it's good to limit the time
Per person.
for that
yeah.
person to come up and speak about their employee or staff member.
To limit it
But
to,
it's really important to people on campus.
Yeah,
what I was
it's
thinking.
great.
You could see the last one, friends would come or family
Yeah.
members come to honor that person. I think it's important. It's good for morale.
I would say you might want to just be limited to 2 or 3 minutes, like that way instead of having a 5 minute thing.
Yeah.
Right,
That,
exactly.
Sometimes it does go long. But I think it's very important just for that, because not everybody's gonna look at the board docs and this is still public, publicized for the fact it's filmed and stuff. So I think it's good to have that we have how many people that work on campus and how longevity there is.
I mean.
Right.
Yeah, and especially for me, it's like, okay, I'm hitting 35 next year. So it's like, I don't wanna see all of a sudden you guys, no.
Take it away.
Okay, yeah.
Worry about this, because it's like, John Roll was here, I was coming up to like 15 or 20 or something like that. And I didn't get to that point, because they were giving out like gift certificates, like, I think it was for the JSP that you get like a free meal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
I got to that point, and so we had a different president, they didn't do it. So
You were like, oh, darn.
So it's like, coming like, you get something like, oh.
That's good to hear.
So you have a perspective, I think it's still good, it's nice to be recognized.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's what the big thing is, because
Okay.
this is, we give up a lot amount of time for this place.
Yeah, you dedicate
So
your
that's
life.
one day we
yeah.
get the least to shine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one last thing. I don't want to paint Robert as the trustee Miller as the Grinch who stole the
Longevity.
longevity. But I just wanted to just kind of say, yeah, I mean, I totally agree that the time it takes is too long. But it's one, I love those.
Of course you do.
I called you the Grinch.
I
Sorry.
said I'm not. I said I'm not painting him as the Grinch. What if he's a
Just joking.
I know you are.
Any other meeting improvements? Specific things? I think we're gonna say like just more structure to things, right? Like for these recognitions, we don't wanna get rid of them. We
Right.
just wanna have
Tighten
it
them up.
structured.
Tighten them up.
Tighten. More structure provided to presenters and other speakers on time.
So we're putting a time frame on all of the areas.
I would say we'll work on doing that.
How to do it.
Next agenda review, we can
Okay.
test it out, but essentially it'll be like, okay, board assessment survey 23, 24, 45 minutes. Doesn't mean.
That's a long
I
time.
know, I'm just saying,
It's
it's an
just a-
example.
Yeah, I mean,
We actually
Right.
spent an hour and a half on it, but
yeah,
we'd say 45 minutes. If it goes 40, awesome. If it goes 50, it's all right, but we know what
Okay.
shouldn't be.
And who's gonna be keeping time?
Yeah, we
Well,
need a
I
time.
think- yeah, I think we can do that.
Yeah,
Okay, should we have like a little clock?
maybe
in
the.
Yep,
maybe a-
yep, I'm
some
telling you.
other vice president.
Yeah.
do that.
An
We
egg
should have a
timer,
clock.
an
Yeah.
egg timer, cause
Yeah.
that thing goes off beep, 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 the person knows it's like, your time is up.
Yeah, at PCC, there's
I
a
like egg
clerk of the board, so the third officer of the board
Yeah,
is the one who times the public speakers, like, there's no timer on the screen
I like
like
our
we
staff
have.
doing that timer, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like that time.
so that could be, yeah.
I have a request.
Yeah.
So you know how when you take the pictures with the staff and faculty being recognized? I would like to be a part of that. Is there any way we could do the picture a little bit over more so that the board can be in the background, or that's not appropriate?
We could try. I think the hard part is that the bigger the frame, the less you can actually see the person.
Okay.
And we can't take the time for the board to get up every
Yeah.
single.
No, instead of us getting up,
Yeah.
instead of you standing over there, you can stand.
Well, I'll ask Jordan
We can
about that. I just worry about the frame
Yeah,
being
I
too
agree.
wide
Too
to
wide.
really focus on the person.
Okay.
More photos.
All right, anything else on improving our meetings? How we do business at our board meetings? I mean, it's
Good
good,
start.
it's good we have things to look.
I'll just add this,
Yeah.
that, and I don't know what, if anything, can be done, because we've talked about it before. I think the whole setup is very awkward.
Like where
Sitting
we
on that
sit.
dais.
Where we sit,
Yes.
where the screen is, I mean.
I like the dais.
No, let them go, let them keep going.
No, I don't know, if it just seems awkward to me, and, the way that, where the speakers, come. And it's just the nature of the room, I guess.
Oh.
But, I mean, it was my idea, I think, to have the TVs down in front of us, because a lot of times you can't even see what's up there, because we're looking at it. Particularly where you sit, you gotta turn around all the time.
Yeah.
I used to sit there.
Well, I gotta look over like that.
You gotta turn around to look, that's very awkward. So I don't know. I really don't have the solution, but I always thought it was an awkward setup.
I mean, the TVs in front of us are newer. Those are post-COVID, I think. that we
Yeah,
got.
there.
Yeah. But,
All right.
all right, well, you guys wanna take a 5-minute break
Yes,
before we
please.
move on with the rest of the agenda?
That's how much more we have to do.
We have 3 items and they're shorter than.
They're shorter.
Yeah. I also brought some coffee chocolates made in Hawaii. I did, yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Oh.
5 days. maybe.
Good for you, Jonathan. The agenda.
All right, we're back to the meeting at 3:41, 9-minute break, but it's okay, no one's in trouble. So this is the most, well, this is the important agenda item that I felt for the retreat, the most important one, which is preparing for fall 2024. So what you have on here, and you have like the paper versions all in front of you, and there's the digital versions here, is essentially the items for the next 2 big meetings we're gonna have. So we have 3 meetings left this fall with the current board. We have October 10th. Regular
Is there a
meeting.
document you're reading from?
No, the timeline is I'll send an email.
Okay.
October 10th, that's our next regular meeting. Then we're gonna have a special board meeting on like the 6th or the 7th. And that's,
November.
yes,
Yeah.
and the purpose of that meeting is to offload agenda items from the October regular meeting and the November regular meeting. And I'll tell you why. It's because we want to, like we said, focus on the big issues, which is facilities and budget. So October 10th is our meeting with the facility vision plan. November 7th, we'll have a special meeting to, deal with miscellaneous business.
You said November 7th?
This is just for dealing with miscellaneous business, like approving contracts and things like that. It's, don't worry, because the real meeting is November 14th, which is when we will be talking about the budget and budget strategies, budget goals. Yeah, trustee Gilmore.
So November 7th, that's not the special meeting, is it?
So, okay, so let me explain a little more. The special meeting is not gonna be about the budget anymore. The important special budget meeting.
Yeah, they have those hard
Sure,
discussions, yeah.
that's on the regular November 14th meeting. The publicly already
Oh.
announced, everybody is free and planned for it. It is such an important topic, like why would we do it at a random time? Is what I'm saying
Okay.
here.
So you would be there for
You
that.
would-
Yeah, I'm here on
Yeah.
the 14th.
But the 7th is more ancillary issues.
It's
Okay.
taking care of,
Yeah.
housekeeping, like, approving contracts, approving
Okay.
checks, the
So I will
things
be
that.
here.
It's okay, because 5 of us will, and we'll be able to take care of ongoing routine business.
With the special meeting.
It's a special meeting to do those things.
I see that it's the 6th or the 7th.
The sixth or
And I
the seventh?
request that it be the sixth, because I might be going out of town.
Okay.
on the
I
7th.
think the sixth should be fine then.
What day is that?
Is
That's
that
a
a problem?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
I don't think so.
The November sixth, if we have it, I
No,
know I'll be in town then.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. I'm just looking
Okay,
at my calendar.
Depending on the outcome.
People are gonna be
of November
celebrating. They
5,
never
I
wanna
believe
get up on the
country.
6th.
Right?
well, it's gonna be a
Well,
short
it's gonna take a
meeting.
while for us
Yeah,
to
we
know.
have
We're not gonna
we,
know on the
we have a hold on that for 4 to 6 that
It's
day.
gonna be a short
Okay.
meeting to take
Yeah.
care of business.
I just don't know, we're going out of town that weekend and I don't know if we're leaving Thursday or
Okay.
Friday.
And we might like not 100% need it. It's just so you know that October 10th
Mhm.
and November 14th are the two big days of this board for the fall. And
Okay, so October tenth is facility, November 14th is budget.
yes,
Got it.
and the goal here is that, you know, you're getting these items early because
Oh, got
there's
it.
two tasks to do with these items that we have attached. One is, like, we've kind of talked a little bit about it today, but is to start looking at both of them and saying, what questions do you have? What clarifications do you need? What comments and feedback on them, like policy level feedback do you have? Do you have need for any other additional information that's not highlighted in these? Yes, trustee.
I
Singh.
just wonder if it makes sense to have the facility vision discussion after the bond election. Because we just will know so much more then.
Yeah,
I mean, everything we say on October tenth is speculative because.
But the facilities vision plan is not about the bond. It's about the vision of the college, whether we have a bond or not, where we want to go.
Okay,
As
The big picture.
It's a plan that was planned outside of the question of the bond.
okay,
It's what should this college look like over the next 10 to 20 years?
Yeah.
Funding available or not?
because our bond is very maintenance based, right?
Yeah.
So there-
Yeah.
very little
Mhm.
facility changes.
I have a little bit of, I have a comment about.
Go ahead,
that.
yeah.
Cause we're talking about the
We're good.
facilities vision plan that we talked about in our facilities.
facility,
Yes.
Meeting.
yeah,
And I see that plan as intertwined with the bond, because the kinds of things that we will be able to afford to do in that plan really depends on the bond. If the bond doesn't pass, I think a lot of those things are gone.
Right, but you can't change the plan, because you
Right.
gotta have the
Well, yeah,
plan.
but you can't, you have a plan that's unachievable. You have a plan that talks about this and X, Y, and Z that can't be done.
But we can't go back and change the plan, because the plan is what we need to
Well,
do,
it just means
regardless of
a
funding.
different approach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just means a different approach.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll go steal the money somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
Trustee Waldemar.
Okay, and then, please correct me if I'm confusing these plans, but I thought that on our to-do list, we're gonna be creating a project plan, right, of all the projects. That's not the facility plan,
That
right?
is not the facilities plan,
Okay.
so it's a two-piece. Okay, so first of all, it's the facilities vision plan,
Vision
so it's the
Yeah.
vision of what the college will look like.
Uh-huh.
When the board decided to put the bond on the ballot,
Mhm.
there was a project list
Mhm,
that added up to about $207 million.
Mhm.
That was also listed within the text of the bond.
Uh-huh.
If the bond passes, then we move into an action point
Mhm.
where we have college conversation and board conversation about prioritizing that plan.
Right.
And part of that, and this is related to the facilities plan, is also deciding how we want to manage the program. Do we want to have what's known as a program management office?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Or do we want to do each individual project as a construction management? Or, so there are questions that we will spend time on that
Mhm.
there is no point to having a conversation about right now.
So that's why I asked that question, because I'm getting the sense that we're not ready to have those type of questions, because the list is not complete
No, the list is complete,
They're
but
unrelated.
right, they're unrelated because the list is complete, but I felt very strongly that you don't ask the college to go through a prioritization of projects if you have no possibility of doing anything. Believe me, half of working with the college community on a bond program
Mhm.
is managing expectation.
Got it.
And if
That's
you,
true.
and it's very, very important.
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
I just, there's a lot of, I'll just say this, there's a lot of consistency between that project list
Yes,
that we had and the vision plan. They're
Yes.
Two different things. I fully appreciate, but there is a lot of consistency
there is a lot.
between them. And the beautiful thing about this vision plan that you'll see when we eventually get into it is kind of toward the end of it, you see what the campus is gonna look like
Mhm.
when we removed all the modules.
Yeah.
When we replaced the PE building, when we replaced the physical sciences building, when we improved the entrances, when we've done X, Y, and Z. It's gonna be
Spectacular,
spectacular.
right?
It really is.
I mean, actually, that just reminds me, Erica, could you, Superintendent, could you give a overview of what the facilities vision plan is supposed to do and like kind of the
Yeah.
general purpose
So,
of the document?
The purpose of the plan.
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
real quick before, this is just to kind of go back to an earlier discussion about the Black student and the equity issue and what. When I was looking at the pictures in the vision plan, I wasn't paying attention to the pictures when we were first looking at it, but as I looked at, it, I did not see many students of color in any of those pictures.
Okay,
I was like, how did I, so
Okay.
I really would like to see that addressed.
okay.
Thank you. You get a.
But not just that, we're not also showing enough imaging of our extended learning students.
It's like grown folks, old folks.
Yeah.
Older.
Our seasoned citizens.
And I have one request for our CEO as you talk about the vision plan. I think it would be helpful to distinguish between the vision plan
Mhm.
and the facilities master plan, because they're
They're the same.
they're the same.
We do not use the word master.
Thank you.
This is the
That's-
new master.
That is,
plan.
it is the new, because we're using vision instead of master, just like
Thank
we
you.
do with the education vision plan.
Right,
We're trying to use inclusive language without historical
okay.
baggage.
They also do that in real estate, sorry, they no longer say the master bedroom, they say primary bedroom.
Primary bedroom.
Because I watch
Yeah.
HGTV and
Mhm.
and they're
Getting
like,
off topic here.
Yeah, but anyway,
Oh,
so the vision,
No.
so the purpose of, a facilities vision plan is to map out what you think the campus is gonna look like, usually in a 10 to 20-year timeframe. I'll give you an example of what we did at PCC. We knew that we wanted to connect the vision plan with our building out our guided pathways. So when we did the vision plan, we rezoned and mapped the entire campus according to quadrants that aligned with our 6 career communities. So within the next 10 years, if you're a STEM student, the majority of what you take is gonna be in buildings that are at the corner of Colorado and Bonnie. If you are a social sciences student, by the time this is built out, the majority of your classes are gonna be in the middle of campus bordering Colorado and Hill. And so the idea was to create these communities, community spaces around the career communities, and we mapped it out.
Kind of like a big university. where
Like
you
a
have
big university,
Colleges. and-
exactly.
and Schools within. the
Now,
university.
it's easier at PCC because the whole thing is a square. It's a block. Colorado, Bonnie, Del Mar, Hill. That's what it is, the Colorado campus. So it's a little easier, it's very compact, and it's easier to do than it is here, where we have 2 campuses with a bridge here, and then we have our Shot and our Wake campuses. Now, we have 2 other campuses at PCC, but the idea, it's not about what you think you can afford. It's about what you think you're gonna need. That's why in that vision plan, we have a new physical sciences building, but not where it is. The physical sciences building is actually supposed to be over where ECOC 1 and 2, as well as where the ESL building is. It will take the place of that. What goes where the physical sciences building is a green. And that's part of building out a campus that's easy to traverse and things like that. So that's the purpose of a vision plan. Now, normally, a college does their educational vision plan, and then they do their facilities vision plan, and then they do their strategic plan. Y'all
The other way.
did your strategic plan, and then when I got here, you were parallel your EVP and your EV and your FVP. But you needed to do that because you had an imperative to get that educational vision done. And you had that imperative to get your vision done for the facilities because you needed to decide whether or not you were gonna go for a bond. If nothing else, the FVP justifies the fact that you went for a bond. Does that make sense?
Yes. So this document, is this your way of helping us streamline what we're gonna be talking about at each meeting?
No, yes, but that's not what we're talking
We're
about.
not there yet.
We're not talking about this. We're only talking about the next 2 months.
Okay.
This is a different purpose
Yeah.
of a document than what we're doing here, which is priming you to be ready for October. Like, that's why we just went over.
Oh, cause I'm getting ready for 2025.
Let's not do
Yeah,
that. Let's
that's
stick
not
to the.
what we're doing.
Let's all stay on the same
Yeah.
item.
Oh, okay.
So if there's anything, so that's the facilities plan, right? Facilities vision plan. What kind of policy and feedback and questions do you think you'd be looking for from us? Like, what should people be focusing in on when they send in questions and comments?
Well, I think, I guess the question is, do you agree with the vision that's being laid out in terms of what the campus will look like? And especially those of you who were at the facilities meeting, you saw it, Brian talked about it. And I think also related to this, and it's related to the budget as well, how do you see the use of our campus supporting our community as well as our fiscal health? Because, for example, Brian and his team have been trying to make better use of buildings and consolidate space so that we can stop spending money on things we don't need to spend on. But that's gonna take the board saying, we agree that this needs to happen because it involves some tough conversations. There has been a longstanding priority room list or priority expectations of rooms on our campus. That may not be compatible with the board's desire to streamline things. And I know that Trustee Croninger is particularly interested in looking at classroom efficiency, space efficiency in general. And some of that drives decisions about the use of buildings, because if you want particular classes to be larger than what they are or more productive, there's a 10+1 piece of it. And then there's we need to be fiscally prudent piece of it. And then there's what room do you actually put it in? One of the reasons why having Antioch and the IGC building made sense is because there are classrooms in that building that faculty either don't like to use, or the classes they teach are too big for those classrooms, or they don't work in the space. And so what would the board like to see in terms of how we evaluate the space we have?
Trustee Goldman.
And you want us to be ready with questions related to that at the October meeting?
Well, ideally by next Wednesday, right? Because you've gotten these
Next
documents
Wednesday.
today.
Next Friday
So,
or
sorry.
after?
I would say early
Oh,
comments for this, like, we're sending in our comments and questions before the
In
board
advance.
meeting. That's why you're getting this today, so much earlier than normal. so that we have over a week to review, ask questions.
You have
Send
longer,
in comments.
because the board agenda won't get posted until a week
Yeah.
from Friday.
Right, the fourth,
The
So
fourth.
the fourth, yeah.
then you would have until the seventh at 5.
So basically, we just look at the agenda and send in my questions.
Look at this agenda, look at this facilities vision plan. You don't have to wait for the agenda to get posted. It's been posted today.
What was your third thing you said? You said, do we
This one.
agree with facility master plan, health?
Yes.
Okay, this is
By
the
next-
updated
As well as
As best as
college,
you can.
and what was the third one?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you were
Okay.
saying.
I just want to know what
Her
her
third question.
third question was that she wanted us to think about.
They weren't specific questions. It was like, these were, could be
Yeah,
results of
does,
your
what do
direction.
you think
Yeah.
about how the campus will look? And are there?
Oh, yeah,
questions?
right,
Yeah.
right. What, how do we want to prioritize use of,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay,
So yeah, this is the document. It's in color online, obviously, but
Online, yeah.
you have it now. So instead of waiting until the agenda is posted on October fourth, start reading it now, start getting
Mhm.
questions in sooner. You know,
Yeah.
if they're sent in by October seventh, for such a big meaty issue.
It's meaty,
I mean, there's like, it's not gonna be enough time. So that's why I'm saying,
right?
do it early. And you have it now given to you early. And that's why we're doing this retreat, is to prep everybody to get ready for this.
is it a lot different from the one given to us in June?
I believe it has been updated.
Oh, yeah, it's different.
Yes, it's different.
Okay,
It's
Yeah.
beautiful, actually. It's a beautiful report.
So
okay.
we've got it. This is the homework assignment
I read the
number
one.
one.
Yeah.
And that, it just
Yeah.
stay,
Oh, go ahead.
is to submit questions we have about the plan.
Yes,
Questions,
Mhm.
feedback, clarifications.
Yeah, and then that way, you know, I can pass them along to Brian and make sure that Brian and his team are able to answer.
okay,
And just to clarify, the October tenth is the first reading.
It's
essentially,
first reading.
First reading,
Mhm.
so
okay.
Okay.
it's not,
great.
we're not approving it that
No.
day, but you know, we're not gonna make big changes on the approval day. Like, this is
Yeah.
our chance to see it, make our comment and impact.
Yeah,
All right, so that's homework assignment number one. Homework assignment number two is the budget, which is the rest of the attachments on this agenda item. And all of these you've had before. So we had the sustainability report in May,
Mhm.
and we had the budget presentation last week, or whenever that was.
but I will agree with trustee Croninger's request that we get an updated, adopted.
Yes.
Mhm.
No,
budget.
you'll get an updated
Mhm.
versions of these. And that's the thing too, is if you have looked at these documents and something doesn't make sense to you, instead of on November 14th, we get into like a question of
Mhm.
facts.
Yeah.
Review as early as possible, get your facts straightened out as early as possible, meet with our superintendent as early as possible. That's the whole call to action here, is like, we need to do our homework early, not on the last
No, I'm
night.
with you.
And
Right.
so, and there's a,
But that's for the November
This is for
14th
November.
meeting.
That's
Right.
for November, meeting, not October.
Right.
Relating to
For
what
the-
for the budget,
Okay, so
to the
November,
24-25 budget.
24 and beyond.
because of the new things that just came out.
Structural, any
The
questions?
structural deficit, setting goals for this, so actually, let me rewind.
Yeah.
The goal of the November 14th meeting is we have had all this information already given to us. So we're not gonna get an info dump on November 14th. We might get an overview, but we're not gonna get a long presentation. It's more for us to have a discussion on how do we move forward as a fiscally sustainable college, and what priorities we have around that, what goals we'd like to see met with our reserves and over which period of time, strategies we support, strategies we want to prioritize. That's the point of this, is because we've had mentioned this need to do this over many board meetings already, right? Like, we
Yeah.
keep talking about, oh, we have to approve the budget, but we need to actually take action on next steps, but, and so.
So, yeah, and if you look at, you know, the structural deficit, I think the board needs to basically have a conversation.
Mhm.
Well, we'd like to, in the next 3 to 5 years,
Mhm.
be fully balanced without hitting our reserves every year.
Yeah,
And we want you, superintendent president, to come to us
Right.
with a plan. What are you gonna do this year? What are you gonna do next year? And work out that plan.
Yeah.
yeah, and I've reached out to you, and that's why we're meeting, because I've been doing my homework, so I'm ready.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I already have
That's
my,
great.
I'm ready for my,
So, and you've requested this, I know.
Oh,
you're
yeah, no,
the
I'm-
person who
I'm
has to
ready.
Do this, so.
to have that discussion.
Are we gonna take action on November?
There's no vote to take, I think it's more of like, we're gonna give marching
Yeah.
orders to our superintendent. He
Right.
comes back with a sketch of how.
So we could discuss and reach some consensus possibly on,
Yeah.
you know,
So
we
what-
want something done by.
Yeah, what I would recommend is that you reach consensus on something, give me direction. And give me an opportunity to go to our budget committee, to go to our college planning council.
Get feedback.
And to have those initial conversations of, okay, this is what the board is looking for. We need to frame our discussion going forward of how we're going to meet these goals.
Trustee, yeah.
Well, just, you know, so just so I'm clear, so we're going to actually practice this new streamlining approach by getting our questions in on the budget, strategies and clarifications and feedback for the November meeting before then, so that at that meeting, it'll, the superintendent president will have looked at everything, you know, bring it to us with maybe some overlapping or key things that she noticed, so it's not a free fall.
No, I don't think she's gonna bring us like recommendations
Mhm.
or our consensus there. We're gonna have a discussion to form that
Yeah.
consensus. Your job.
On the 14th.
On the
Okay.
14th. Your job between now and the, let's say the 7th, is to become, you know, as informed as you can be, ask as many questions, request additional information if you feel like you need it, like,
Mhm.
Okay,
and Trustee Croninger
got
asked,
it.
what's the percent of in-person versus,
I got
Yeah.
it. I understand now.
so what
it.
information do you need?
Got it.
And yeah, to be able to
Okay.
feel like you can give direction, because
Right,
that's the thing,
right.
is like, it's coming to the moment where we have to say
Right.
this or that.
Yeah, you can
Right.
study something to death.
Yeah.
I got it.
Just to clarify, this can't be discussed with each board member, right? Is this?
It can be well, explanations can be given with each board member, but like. Two board members can't talk and say, okay, at the board meeting, I want you to do this, or do we agree that this is gonna be our approach? Because that is a violation of open meeting law, which we also call the Brown Act.
Basically, no influencing stuff.
No forming a majority
No
outside.
forming
of
a
the meeting.
majority.
Okay, so it is an info that I can maybe not discuss or like give
Yeah.
out to like a ASG or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, you can tell people what you're learning about the budget.
Right,
Yeah, it's public information. You just can't work with other board members to form a majority.
Can't we work with?
Two, yeah,
Two other-
but
two other.
if they're on the budget committee, you
can't
can.
be having a conversation with a majority of the
Right.
board.
Yeah,
So if you had a question, you could ask like somebody that,
but remember,
but
he
it's
never
better
counts
to-
for quorum,
Yeah.
so.
that's true.
Even if he comes to a committee meeting and there are three
Right.
trustees, he doesn't
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
it into,
right, no, I
Yeah.
got that, but your questions mainly should be directed to them.
to me.
And she doesn't count in the Brown Act the same way we do. Like, people outside the board can, like, they're not supposed to reveal what other board members think,
Mhm.
but they can receive information from all of us or have conversations with all of us.
Mm,
That's why when I send emails to the board, I blind carbon them, so they can only respond back to me. They can't respond to each other.
Oh, okay.
So we gotta keep it going.
Yeah.
Because we're almost out of time here.
Yeah.
But, so anyways, everybody understand what we need to do here?
Yep.
We have a big 2 meetings ahead of us. You know, reaching the big point of decision making for things, so. All right,
And
next-
again, you will get additional information about the budget at the October 10th meeting.
all right, so next, we're gonna look at the pink, red, I don't know, both pink and red. piece of
Salmon.
Paper, salmon. Close. This is the 24-25 draft calendar. And you know, we used to get these and now we have an updated version. Now meeting the, you know, how things work today.
Mhm.
So this is not final, obviously, we're part of it, discussing this today is to get your input of
Mhm.
timing of things, order of things, addition or subtraction of things.
Mhm.
Usually, we've had this at our organizational meeting get finalized, so that's our December meeting this year. So we'll have a final version for the new board at that point, but. Yeah, is there anybody who have any feedback, comments, you know, what's missing. And again, these are the regular things that happen every year.
Mhm.
We have the next items, our future items list, which are the more custom items, like the
Mhm.
things that come up.
Yeah.
But this is every year, October will do this, every year, November will do this. So
Could we get the dates of those 2025 meetings?
So that we will put together for the December meeting. We haven't put those always come at the organizational meeting.
Okay.
And what happens is, Paulina and I take a look at the entire year. We look at when our conferences.
Yeah.
You know, what's happening, what's graduation, and we make sure that the meetings make sense and that we won't have to move any meetings. And then, so that's when we'll have it, is at the December meeting, you'll get to approve your calendar for the year.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll be a January through December calendar
That'll be
that you
fine.
get, yeah.
That'll be.
So I had some ideas about some resolutions, but should I just email them to you so I don't hold up the meeting?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Superintendent. I have one question here, which is the equal opportunity report is on November now. It used to be at the December meeting, but this is the demographics of our employees report.
What's this?
We were getting that every year in December, but it's okay if it's November. I'm just checking it's the same report.
Yeah, it is the same report, and, but I can move it.
No, no, no. I think
Okay,
November's fine.
I'm still really interested in having a presentation on the DEIAA curriculum and how it what it looks like.
Can we stay tuned? That will be the next agenda item. This is,
all right.
this is the
Okay.
routine. No, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
This is like the routine things will happen every year, like audit is every year, you know,
Okay.
budget timeline every year.
All right.
But does anybody feel like there's any regular reporting of information or topics? you'd
I like
the
that we
board
have
to-
this.
Yeah.
It gives you like a board trustee, calendar at a glance.
Yeah,
And it's not like it's set in stone, like, I mean, I'm sure we can like move some things around depending on what's going on, if any things out of our control or things that we missed because we're doing this, so this is making us very more efficient. Good work. I'm liking it.
all right, so send ideas to our superintendent.
I
if you
will.
have
I
others.
got mine written down right here.
So now we'll go to the
All
more
right.
fun one, which is
Yeah.
the items we've brought up
Yeah.
for future consideration. Give me a second, let me get to an editable version of this. So I would like to spend, let's say 20 more minutes on this and then we can be done for the day, but I do want to go,
Did you update it?
it is updated,
Okay,
yeah, I
cool.
got your email.
Okay.
I do want to go through this. We've been building this list up since December 2022 essentially, and so I do want to either remove things, start getting things prioritized even, just so that we, again, we've been thinking about these topics for a couple of years now that we want to hear. So just to review though, we have done a lot of different things.
Sure did.
These are the board initiated items, so like
Mhm.
the resolution 18 revision, got a presentation on the marketing strategy. This all sounds like it's in the past because it's what it was. We got the student housing survey results. That's what we've done.
Resolution 18 is still going. So.
We passed, no, this is the passing the resolution.
Okay, yeah,
So we did that. We have a couple
Is that
things.
this document, John?
Yes, that one.
Where'd you get that? Oh, there.
In the file there.
Thank you.
We have a couple things in progress. I know we keep getting like revisions to our public discourse policy. I know you guys are working on
I
that.
believe we're done, right?
I think we're done.
We're
Done
done.
now. Okay, so it'll
So
come to
it's
the
ready?
board. It's not,
Well,
board
it's
hasn't voted on it.
done according to us, and now it's go back to it's
So-
house of origin.
So yes, it'll
Before
go
it
back
comes
to
to
the
us.
board. I think, we have our ad hoc committee that will bring back a discussion on the workforce housing
Which item are we on? What number?
Under in
in
progress.
progress.
Oh.
It's on
okay.
screen too.
Got it.
you can
It's
look
on
up.
page 2,
Okay,
it's on the
Yeah, I
second
just
page.
I want to literally be on the
Yeah.
same page.
Yeah.
in progress, yeah.
So next we have our DEIA training for the board. This says it's gonna go to policy committee. Is this on the policy committee?
Yes, it's on our
Okay,
list.
cool.
Mhm.
And formation of our
That's in progress
we're
as
meeting
well.
on Monday.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are meeting.
Okay, so these are all actually in progress.
Yeah.
So this is going back up one, I'm going backwards. But to the
Yeah,
to do, this is the things that the board has decided to have on the agenda in the future. And what I'd like to do is to form a little more structure and details to these so that we also have good direction to our staff on what to prepare and how to prioritize these. So we're gonna go one by one.
On the to-do list, page 2.
Yeah, so Emoja program update.
Yes.
We still want this.
Yes.
And what, do you want to say like 1 or 2 sentences on what you want to see out of this?
You know, so based on, we got when we got this report here. The 2022 to 2025 student equity plan.
Yes.
Is this the one that Dr. Z gave us? I
And
think
that's what we had to, that's what we submit to the state. So that's a required report we submit to the state. It comes in a particular format. Umoja would be.
you know what? This is not the one that.
Yeah,
Z
that's
gave
not
us.
the one.
Yeah,
Trustees-
so
oh.
because of that report, what I would like to see is, are we closing that gap of opportunity on, as it relates to our first year, the completion rate, the 9-unit, it was all in
Okay,
that report.
that makes sense. Trustee Stoddard?
Well, for me, I would kind of like to know what are the goals of that program and are we meeting those goals? I think it's kind of the same thing that,
Mhm.
That you just, yeah, you're on the same page.
Yeah, what are the, kind of like what Raices did when they came and
Raices.
gave us the presentation to the board. I'd like to see the same thing
Sure.
for, you know, the veterans program and the Emoja program.
Okay,
Right?
so we have,
So we know more about it, what it is.
so we have both Emoja and veterans, we're gonna do that
Yeah,
for next.
yeah.
Okay, so. How does everybody else feel about getting these reports? I know you guys won't be here, but
Right.
what do you think about it? Like, do we
I think they're important.
want these reports?
I think
Okay,
they're important.
Of course.
so these two,
Shading up.
I'm trying to look at.
Oh, sorry.
we can get you a paper copy.
No,
All
that's.
Yeah, because they're right there.
No, that's all right. I can read it.
right, Emoja veterans. Trustee Sutter, do you have the curriculum committee and what DEIA means for course outlines? Do you want to expand more on this one?
Okay, so I went to a presentation that Tara Carter did, I don't know. a year
Yeah, it was
ago.
during an in-service or.
It was, you
professional
know,
development.
yeah. And I just felt it was so informative and I just feel like we're teaching institution, we should know what this is that we're teaching and how we're teaching it. And it was reassuring for me. And I think that I would like everybody to hear
I
it,
see.
the public to hear it, because I think it dispels a lot of myths about what DEIAA looks like in a
Mhm.
classroom.
Mhm.
And I think she did give some sort of verbal, okay.
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
she'd be
I
willing
think
to
she
do
did,
that.
yeah.
very good.
We
Mhm.
just need to schedule this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Next are joint meetings. We do need to we had a conversation going with the academic senate on a joint meeting. We'll get back on.
Well, I think that'd be great.
Faculty Association Executive Board, we said we wanted to do a joint meeting with that board.
Yep,
And then Santa Barbara Unified School District, we're gonna try to do that like, I think, next spring.
Next
right?
spring, yeah, we're gonna do it after the new trustees are seated and oriented and
that
all.
sounds really good. I don't think we need to have a presentation on the nature reserve right now because we're kind of going in that direction right now.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like Brian's
Yeah,
definitely on board with that and if I see eucalyptus trees on any of the plans, I will.
if I see eucalyptus trees on any of the plans, I will scream too.
Well, you-
We'll have no
You
eucalyptus
had-
trees.
you had
Have a
put this
eucalyptus
down
and a
as
magnolia.
policy.
Shallow
Um,
roots
Yeah,
and.
So-
but I don't,
native
well,
and sap.
I know, but but Erica feels that it's really more part of facilities.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So we can remove this.
So we're
one.
moving, okay.
Flammable.
And flammable, yeah, highly flammable,
Yeah.
shallow roots
Right.
and sap that destroys.
Retroactive approval policy. I think this is about like retroactive approval of spending,
Yeah.
right?
I think,
Policy.
That's what I'm nice.
can I say that one of the things we want to do, it should be retroactive approval policy, but also expenditure limits. Because part of the problem
Okay.
is that the way our policy is written, too many things need to come directly to the board that should be
Yeah.
that should be deferred to my
Yeah,
judgment.
yeah.
And the vice president
Yeah.
of business, like you all shouldn't
We don't
be
need to- yeah.
approving some of the stuff you're
Yeah.
approving.
But if it's like some big amount of
Yeah,
money, yeah.
so in some districts, it's more than 50 or 75,000.
Right.
That is, I have signing authority below 75,000.
Mhm.
And we would, of course, bring certain things to you, but right now you almost do a double approval because you approve a PO request and then you approve the expenditure and then
Yeah, it's too much.
it's too much.
Okay.
Is it reasonable to ask, whether expenditure decisions we're making are affecting the budget? In other words, we never see that.
I think what we.
Or is it just assumed that whatever money we're spending is within the budget?
The way I see it is that it is assumed unless there's a budget adjustment being brought to
Right.
us. And we can ask to look at actual spending reports more frequently, like. we
Right,
do
so like.
Quarterly actuals.
So like Brian has brought forward a couple times over the last few months, like a budget adjustment because we left somebody off the
Right.
salary table.
Yeah.
And so that's coming to you saying we are fundamentally adjusting the budget. So it wouldn't allow for those kinds of fundamental adjustments. It would just mean if it's a contract for $10,000, you all don't need to see a contract for
Right.
$10,000.
Right.
Unless after 6 months' time, you start to get the sense that, wait a minute, what's happening here? And that's a different question.
Let's see a little more. I'll come back to you. All right, so these are two policies we want to look at. They'll
Yeah.
help our agenda
Yes.
process. It'll make our meetings more efficient.
Yes.
Do we have a timeline of when these can be done? Do we
Well,
want to
right,
shoot for?
so the
Like,
thing is-
no pressure, just want to ask.
The thing is, we have to look at what policies that definitely needs to be looked at right now to get
Mhm.
us on the right calendar as it relates to our upcoming accreditation. So I'm working, with our amazing CEO with that, but it is on our
It's on the
policy
list.
list.
Okay, so I'll
Oh,
just
yeah.
leave it here. All right, let's keep moving.
Okay.
We're almost done. Seismic report. So this one says presented facilities committee first. Has the
Mhm.
facilities committee gotten this report or what is?
No, and it's very expensive.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's the issue.
you're
That's what
hoping.
Brian's explained to us on the.
so
facility.
here's the issue. We have a basic seismic report that was done by LPA, who used a very simple process to look
Yes.
at which building.
Right.
Which we saw in like January.
Right,
Right,
you've
right.
seen that.
Yeah.
Trustee Croninger has asked that we do an in-depth study of every
Mhm.
building. The problem is that's A, expensive, and B, if it comes back that a building is seismically unsafe, the time clock starts. And you have to start figuring out within X number of
Yeah.
months, years, whatever, how you're gonna fix it, how you're gonna replace it. And so if we do that to every single building on this campus, especially given how old this campus is, we could wind up being 100% out of compliance in practically every building. So we do need to do that,
Mhm.
but we don't want to do it all
Right
at
now.
once. We
Once,
need to
right.
do it building by building as we're
Stages,
preparing
yeah.
to do things.
So to my understanding, we talked about this and
Mhm.
kind of said, we know we need to do it, but we're not doing it right at this very moment.
Okay.
Because we have that preliminary report. It's not like we don't have anything. It's just that to go a little bit further, it's very expensive and we wanted to kind of. It's on the priority list, but it's like down here.
I see. Trustee's daughter.
Would it make sense for for the facility committee to sort of codify how we're gonna go about doing that? Would that make sense, so that we're not just ignoring it, but.
Like look at options, kind of realize the costs.
Well,
and
I mean,
timeline,
like,
or-
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
like, what's the first building we're gonna do and when are we gonna do it by? And what's the next building we're gonna do and when are we gonna do it by?
Right.
Is what you're saying, doing it one at a time. Would it make sense for us to come up with a plan or not really?
I think it would make sense to come up with a plan, and I think it would all coincide with what's the bond passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the approval of the facilities vision plan.
Okay, so I'll say discussion at facilities committee in 2025.
Yeah,
Sounds
Yeah,
fair?
yeah.
Like sometime next year.
Yeah.
Because I asked the question, do we need to do the second seismic report in order to move forward with the bond? And the answer was no, we didn't need to do a second one to move forward. And I suggested, well, why don't we wait until after we finish with getting this bond and then come back to this?
All right, let's keep going then on this
Okay.
list. I think we resolved this report. Enrollment management in relation to the budget. Now, I know this came up when we maybe had some public comments on enrollment issues.
Yeah,
How do you all want to approach this? Do we want to fold something like this into November 14th? Is that possible, or is this a separate topic? Want to see how you guys.
Management report.
Yeah, we.
you did.
This says in relation to the budget, like how does that? How is, but I don't, I'm just, this was a
Yeah,
note I
yeah,
wrote
yeah,
from the
yeah.
meeting, but yeah.
I think we had it, and I think it was in relationship to the budget, because we were, issues that were mentioned were, because of the student funding formula. That, we are trying to get our enrollments up, and here's where we are, and, so we've had that, I mean.
And I feel like we're doing that now, as
yeah.
we're looking at the budget with a microscope, we were looking at how is it our enrollment, because we were too zealous with thinking we were gonna have this number of international students, we really didn't.
Yeah, that's like a slightly different thing though.
I know,
Like
I'm just
enrollment
saying, like,
management, yeah.
we have no other choice but to look at our enrollment management because of the deficit issue.
So do you guys want to remove this?
I
Like, do
mean,
you
I
feel
didn't
it's
put it
been
there.
addressed? It
I
just
think-
came up in a board meeting. Like, it wasn't one person brought it up. It was like, the discussion was, we want to learn more about this. Trustee
I
Everett.
just think we make it ongoing. You know what I mean? Just have it's an ongoing thing that we're always looking at.
Okay,
Okay.
and I might not have it on this list, but it
That
could.
is-
Yeah.
it-
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
so
is,
we can-
tangible.
But it's like.
yeah.
Okay,
it's
got it.
on-
Can't look,
it is.
it's so integral to the budget. You can't
Yeah.
Look at enrollment management without.
The
consider-
budget.
Right.
You can't do a budget without consideration that.
But until very recently.
Yeah,
They didn't take the budget into account when doing enrollment management. They didn't understand the cost of the schedule when building the budget
Oh.
and planning the schedule. I think they're doing a good job of trying to figure that out. But the way that things were done here, other college districts are either cost or revenue models. And the model begins with the cost or the revenue, but here, for a variety of reasons, there wasn't a connection. So I think we're starting to see that connection now. So I think it's a good topic and it relates to both enrollment management and budget management.
okay.
So my question then is, should we have the enrollment management team and the budget team get together and have their meeting?
I don't know,
Crossover meeting, because-
What our superintendent said is what I think we want to learn about is how does the budget relate to the schedule of classes? And I don't think the board has enough. I think me and trustee Croninger have that information because we were on the budget sustainability group. I think that might be what's helpful to the board is education on how the budget and the schedule of classes connect. And that's
So,
what.
yeah.
That's a good
Okay,
point.
so I'm not done. So then, given that, then, should we have some kind of a, just basic, summary and description of why this is important? Like you said, we haven't been thinking about this in relationship to, to courses and to whatever,
Mhm.
all the elements, so that there's a little bit of a kind of, at a glance look at, why this is important.
Yeah.
And that way,
Mhm.
it'll make sense. And then, people who are having to make those choices understand that relationship. And
Yeah.
say, oh, okay, we need to rethink this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
maybe like
background.
some sort of even primer on this, like a
Primer.
before the November 14th meeting might be helpful. Like if it's not even a workshop or presentation, but like even a one page that
Yeah, that's what-
explains it. I think people just maybe, and you can say reference this part of the sustainability report, but I think this is like a key concept that is new for us.
I just like.
So who will put,
Oh, sorry, student trustee. has a
I'm
question.
sorry.
I'd like to quickly add that it will be very helpful for me to.
understand that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who will put together that one page?
our administration,
Okay.
not us, not the board. Next is legislative package to endorse. Now, we don't really have like a legislative process here. We have legislative liaisons, but other districts have like a timeline and like, you know, you do things at a certain time.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking this might be even too
Well, I mean,
ahead, and
it-
maybe we can talk more about what a legislative process for our board would be.
Can I offer, one of the reasons I think this is important is that, as a superintendent president, I get asked all the time, can we put Santa Barbara City College's name down to support this bill or that bill, or this or that?
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying that you should all do it this way, but I'm just gonna tell you that at Pasadena City College, because the board was very, very active in local and state politics, I knew where they stood on things, and so I knew what I could sign on to and what I couldn't sign on to, or what I would have to bring to them. And they did have a legislative advocacy committee as a subcommittee of the board that usually met in early January in preparation for CCLC and the Ledge Conference. They would meet in February in preparation for going to ACCT and do federal advocacy. And then they would meet again in April to prepare for the May revise and all of that advocacy. So the board, I think, would want to decide, do we have a common agreement about what it is we support as a board? So the superintendent president understands where she can weigh in and where she can't weigh in.
Trustee Everett had her hand up first.
So we actually did have a legislative committee, and Trustee Gluckmore served on that. And, you know, reported back on some of the things and gave us an idea of what was going on in ACCT and CCLC. You know, so we have that kind of structure there, but, you know, as far as kind of expanding it out, filling it in a little bit more,
Yeah.
maybe that's something that would be worthwhile, but.
So I don't know about the committee. I know as the liaison,
Yeah.
I attend all the webinars and I do this anyway, whether I'm wearing my trustee hat or not. I would really like to get on your calendar, Dr. Androgenis, and sift out what that process looks like. And then maybe we could bring it back to the board. Here are some soft ideas of what kind of, you know, are our positions. So then moving forward, when you get this ask, you already know what your current board, where our position as it relates to certain pieces of legislation opportunities to endorse or not endorse. So
Right.
I would definitely like to entertain this.
We'll work on it. Yeah, we don't want to get. too
Something
deep
as a
into each.
board needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, but I wanted to kind of hear
We'll
more
bring it
about
to
how you guys did it
Yeah.
before, so we don't reinvent the wheel.
So let's keep going, but yes, I think this one is, we need to work on a proposal, bring it to the board.
Awesome.
Next one is update on CTE programs and how we look at workforce needs. This
Yes.
one looks really interesting.
Yes.
I mean, I think we definitely.
Yes,
all
Yes.
hear
Yeah.
This.
I think I just sent you an email about this, didn't I? No?
Anyway, yeah,
Maybe.
good, good, we definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it says how we, and the note on it is, how do we figure out what programs we have and why?
Yeah.
So I think it's more information for the board.
Yeah,
Trustee
well, I just want to say, that's why my comment last week was about, you know, like, there was a time when an elevated job was a real job and that kind of stuff. We're not there anymore. So workforce is really critical to what are the needs now?
Yes, we know how it all works. Great. Presentation on SBCC transfers to HBCUs.
Yep, that's me.
Well, you don't have to do the presentation yourself. Our staff does that.
Oh.
Yeah, that you were just asking for that data.
You were asking for
Cause
it.
I was happy to do
No,
it.
but that's not a trustee.
No,
Yeah.
We ask for reports.
no, yeah.
It just
In
has
our
your name on
lanes.
here, so it's, you have,
In our lanes.
like, the next one is Croninger, because she's not gonna prepare the enrollment data. She just asked for the enrollment data.
Right.
Okay, fine.
But we do, so.
That would fit into January 2025, because that's when we're making a resolution on Black History Month with fact sheet
We'll
on
be
it.
able to see if they're able to do that in
By then,
January.
That's true,
Yeah.
that's pretty soon.
Anyway, they're
I
tied
think
in.
our superintendent will see if that can happen or not. I'll put January 2025 ?
Okay.
And we'll see if we can do it.
All right, we're almost done.
Almost done, two more, and one of them doesn't really count. So 23-24 enrollment data. Trustee Croninger, I think, once like the numbers have settled, I think is. what she was
Oh.
asking for. I don't remember what she was asking.
It's spelled, you know how we get those automatic emails with the,
Enrollment.
Enrollment
enrollment?
updates, yeah.
And she said something like, I don't really understand
Oh,
it, and
they're garbage.
and
And
I-
we're
I've never
working on
understood.
them.
and I remember
Yeah,
you saying that
they're garbage.
we were
and
going
we're-
to do something about
Yeah.
it to make it more understandable.
Yeah, no, we're working on that
Okay.
because those emails,
And
they
the-
mean
And
nothing.
the
Yeah.
spam.
Yeah.
I think that,
inbox
yes, you're
so
right. That's what
much
she was
that-
Yeah, it was that.
Whenever they're sorted out, I guess she would like
Yeah.
to see a final report on 23-24 enrollment. And the last one, budget strategies on a fiscally healthy college, coming to you November 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's why I said we're done. And then we had three more that were not approved by the board at a prior time.
Who's that?
Well, they weren't approved, so.
They weren't approved, so I'm just gonna remove them, but I'm just gonna let you know.
At the top.
Yeah, those, they never got traction, so
Yeah.
we're done with that. Now we have a fresh list. We can start with our new board members on. And that's the agenda. That's.
Yay, okay.
But, sorry, I should ask, does anybody have anything they want to add to this list? Hopefully not right now. We have a lot. I did have a couple general topics, but they're not urgent ones, just things to learn about, but not for now.
Wait next year.
Yeah, they'll wait till next year.
I'm not saying, you can add as much as you like.
Well,
President.
technically, I can allow, but no, I won't abuse that. All right, well, that's about it for the agenda. Everyone knows our next steps. Do we have any public comment on the agenda? I know, we have one public member here. I know, I'm supposed to ask. All right, well then that's about,
Hey, meeting,
meetings adjourned.
Okay.
Before 30 minutes early.
awesome. My chickens will be, are very thankful. They are mad at me.